This is Hyperbaric Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr.Masha. I'm a naturopathic doctor and a hyperbaric expert. Decisions surrounding hyperbaric oxygen therapy can be complex, and I think the best way to learn is from the experts, but also from regular people like yourself who've experienced benefits of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. That's why I'm starting a new edition at Hyperbaric Living Podcast, which is called Patient Stories. My guests are patients, regular people like yourself who've tried hyperbaric oxygen therapy for their specific health condition. My first guest is Jake Jahimiak, who recently purchased a home hyperbaric unit to use for wellness, to improve performance, and for longevity. And this was his experience. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Jake, could you please tell my listeners what was the reason for you to get a hyperbaric chamber?
I really always wanted one. I think, honestly, if I really rooted back, I want to say in the early 90s is when I first heard of it. And I think it was probably from like news tabloids of Michael Jackson having one and how crazy it was. And I was just immediately just mystified by it as, you know, a 12-year-old kid at the time, and just was always wondering, well, what is this? If somebody's so wealthy to have this, there has to be a reason for it. So basically since then, I always kind of had an interest in it. I think in the United States, I want to say in the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was a lot of professional athletes that were using them that swore by them just on the recovery. So as time just kind of went on, and as I got older, I kind of dabbled into looking into it more and more. And every time I looked into it, I didn't see anything negative about it. And just benefits from really the body to the chemistry of the mind and everything. I was just absolutely fascinated by it. So there was never any time I was really turned away from it or fearful of it or anything like that. So I just was always, the more I learned about it, more enthusiastic I got about it. So my wife actually says on our first date, I mentioned about getting one about 13 years ago even too. So as far back as I can remember being 12, I had interest in it, and only grew through time.
And then eventually a big day came when you purchased the hyperbaric chamber, right?
Yep, absolutely. I ended up, I'm generally a pretty frugal person. And I ended up getting an enormous break financially through some resale stuff that I had. And my wife's like, you got all this discretionary income that just came in out of nowhere. Why don't you finally get this hyperbaric chamber you were talking about getting forever? And I'm like, oh, why not? So that's kind of how I ended up getting it. And I just absolutely love it. Speaking of kind of like being frugal, I would say there's maybe 5 things on this planet that are worth getting a loan to take out for. And I would probably put the hyperbaric chamber on that list. That's how much I believe in it. And as soon as I don't want to say as soon as I used it, but pretty early on, I regretted not having one earlier in life just to see the benefits of it.
You got me curious. So what are the other 4 things that are worth getting in life?
I wouldn't get a loan out for a car at all, but and probably medical expenses, unfortunately, as well. But I'm very, very tight on how I want to spend money, and that's just how much I believe in it. And my wife laughed at it, like, you wouldn't even think of like taking a loan out for something. She goes, and you said that you would have wished that you would have done it. And absolutely, I like it a lot. So,
well, congratulations on getting your own chamber. Yes, it's a big purchase, but it's also a big investment in your health. How often do you use your hyperbaric chamber?
I use it probably 6 days a week, and a lot of it is working from home as a salesperson. I'm able to say, okay, I got time to take this over a lunch period, or I've got time to take this in the morning. I wake up very early, so I don't want to say I revolve my day around it, but I'll look at what I've got going on, and if I can fit in an hour somewhere, or if there's something that I need to read for work, I'll take it in there with me and read it. So it's definitely part of my lifestyle. But yeah, every day I'm kind of looking at a calendar, whether it's even a Sunday, and say, okay, what do I got time for? When do I have time to slide this in today? So yeah, I'd say almost 7 days a week I use it right now.
And do you use it with a supplemental oxygen, with an oxygen concentrator?
I use 2 concentrators. I was told that it would be about 90% oxygen level. I don't know if there's no way for me to fully quantify that, but yeah, definitely. So I basically have 2 machines that are shooting in oxygen in there in the time that I'm in there. So yeah.
Jake, now that you've been using your hyperbaric chamber for 4 or 5 months and you've been using it 5 to 6 times a week, what difference in how you feel have you noticed? What has changed?
Yeah, I would say, and I tried to track a lot of this. I'm a big, I don't want to say I'm overly analytical, but I love statistics and numbers. And I tracked, so I have a journal that's inside the chamber that I'll write down how I'm feeling that day or what I felt since then. And honestly, and again, so I really got this for preventative maintenance, more or less. So I would say around the 7th time that I used it, I could definitely tell an uptick in energy right off the bat. And I remember telling my wife a lot of the time, I go, it feels sustainable. It doesn't feel like caffeine or feel like something that is fleeting in your body. It felt almost balancing, but and I'm not a very old person. I'm 40 years old, but I definitely felt like a tick up and just overall, I don't want to even say anti-aging because I don't know if I feel fully comfortable saying that, but it definitely felt like a youthful vigor that came out of it. So around the 7th time is when I started legitimately noticing it. And then around my 20th session, I kind of noticed it going up like a little bit more of a level to that, or improving that, if that makes sense.
Have you noticed any other changes?
I would say, not to get, not to bore people too much, but I would just say everything functioning in my body from head to toe operates better. My stomach operates better. This might sound crazy, but I had some slightly thinning hair on the top of my head that my wife just even said the other day. She goes, "Your hair is growing back thicker." And I know this just from some of the science of male pattern baldness, that a lot of that's rooted to lack of oxygen. And it's really just, it feels like it refuels your body just kind of just putting oxygen in your body and areas that you can tell that just processing food the biggest thing that I noticed too is problem solving skills. I also run a side business, and just from that I can tell my decision making, everything is just cleaner and clearer, and it feels like just like the overall pathways in my brain I'm able to get to the same endpoint, but able to do it in different ways, if that makes sense. So I just absolutely love it. But definitely, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any recreational drugs, so I can really tell the small little differences that happen. And there's really been no drawbacks other than making it part of your lifestyle and trying to do, set time aside. So I'm kind of a regimented person in terms of I wake up very early every day. I do a lot of the same things. My wife, she's only used it since May, I think 5 times. So she wants to use it. It's just very hard for her to make that part of her lifestyle every day, but she absolutely loves it too. It's tough for her to slow her life down to say, hey, this is something I need to do, 3 to 4 or 5 days a week type of thing.
And on top of your head, how many dyes have you had so far?
As of this morning, 71.
So you've had 71 dives, and you've mentioned that at the beginning you've noticed quite an improvement. But I'm curious, has there been a plateau in how you felt?
Yeah, so I would say there was, at 7, I started noticing a nice uptick. Around 20, I started noticing another uptick. I would say somewhere between like little improvements I would see between like session 20 to 35, 40, somewhere around there. Right now, it's kind of plateaued, it seemed like, over the last like 20 sessions, but it doesn't feel like anything's regressed. It doesn't feel like any, I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel, again, I still feel very clear mentally and very, as my wife would say, I'm probably a little better at arguing than I was earlier, just because, again, I can tell that the pathways in my mind have developed a little bit, or I don't want to say I'm necessarily smarter, but I can just tell the problem solving to be able to get to endpoint conclusions are just a little bit cleaner than they normally would have been.
Sounds exciting. Do you remember your first session and how you felt during your first session? Were you comfortable? Were you uncomfortable? Was there anything strange and peculiar that you've noticed?
It was, I remember telling my mother about it, and she's very claustrophobic, and just the thought of it like made her hands sweat. And to me, I'm like, no, it's kind of like just going in a sleeping bag. It was just more than anything, getting the zippers, the dual zipper system, getting that down, getting the mechanics of that. How do I do this cleanly and easily? That was more the difficult part than anything. It felt more like meditation more than anything right away. It's like, oh, you just concentrate on breathing, and there was no like anxiety or panic or anything like that. Just kind of getting acclimated to it. I guess the ear pressure, I wouldn't even say it was bad, because I'd certainly gotten better, but you're just not used to it necessarily right away. And I think I had maybe 10 seconds at most of some dizziness. And I'm just talking about the first session I had. That was it. There was nothing different, but I remember I have it in my basement. I remember by the time I walked up my steps, which was about a minute away to go upstairs, I was like, I could notice that something was different is all I could. I didn't feel like more energy or more anything, but I'm like, well, something feels, I don't know if I felt calmer or something like that, but there definitely felt something to it. But yeah, the worst side effect I had was 10 seconds of dizziness and getting adjusted to the ear pressure. And then with the nozzle inside, where I think the first time I just took all the air out right away, which is now I do it more gradually to avoid any fast ear pressure. But even that, I wasn't even close to like rupturing an eardrum or anything like that. So it was, it was just, I think it's kind of like lifting weights or dieting. You can't do it once and expect magic to happen. And I guess that's what it felt like. But the word I keep going back to all the time is that it feels very sustainable. It doesn't feel trendy. It doesn't feel like Western medicine very much. It feels very Eastern, where it has a lot more preventative qualities to it. It doesn't feel like, hey, here's the magic pill, here's the magic treatment, but it feels like, I looked at it right now at being 40 years old, and I looked at it, I go, how am I going to be when I'm 70 years old from using this? What's the benefits of that going to be? And I'm looking forward to that more than anything too, of just, again, making this part of my lifestyle, and that kind of excites me quite a bit.
Absolutely, beautifully said, because prevention is the best cure. It's a lot easier to prevent a disease than to treat a disease once it's already there. And this is true not only about hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I'm talking about foundations of health, getting the right amount of sleep, eating healthy diet, moving, getting outside to get fresh air and sunshine. That makes our body more resilient and more ready to withstand the everyday stressors in life. And Hyperbarics takes it even to the next level. Now, you have a home hyperbaric unit, right? That goes to 1.3 atmospheres, that's approved for home use. It's an OxyHealth chamber, right?
Correct. Yes.
Does it occupy a big space in your house?
I put it in my basement in my furnace room, which is also a room where I do some of my side business for sports memorabilia. So I had some spare space there, and I'm like, I just don't want this sitting in the living room necessarily. But and it's actually really nice for the basement. I don't have an air conditioner with the unit at all, so basements tend to be a little bit cooler here in Wisconsin. So it works out really well. So it's out of the way. I want to say it's about 7 feet in length, and I'm about 6'2". So just space wise is great. Doesn't really get in the way. When a couple people have come over and seen it, of course it looks like what the hell is this? But it's having it a little bit out of the way is nice though. But it is portable at the same time, where you can take it out and move it around, even though I don't really look to do that. I just have it set up stationary in my home. But I just put it in a basement area where it's really not seen too often.
Jake, thank you for sharing your experience of using home hyperbaric chamber. I hope this information and your personal experience will help other people to make a decision to invest in their health and get a home hyperbaric unit.
Yeah, pleasure coming on, and yeah, absolutely love it, and be happy to talk about it anytime. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Folks, that's it for today, and thank you for watching this episode. If you know someone who might benefit from this information, please share the link to this video with them. Give us likes so more people can see it, and if you really like the information that I'm sharing with you, subscribe to my channel to receive more videos about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, health optimization, and disease prevention every week.